What's up everyone? Welcome back to IELTS Soaring Community, and today we are going to talk about IELTS Speaking Marking Criteria, which you really need to understand clearly to improve your bank score. Before we get started, if you do like my channel, please subscribe, comment and share the videos to your friends. And don't forget to click the bell icon for receiving notifications of new videos. You can also follow our new channel focusing on reading and listening skills. I'm gonna let the link for you guys below this video. And now, teacher Annie from England gonna explain more details about IELTS Speaking Marking Criteria. Alright, so let's get started.
So, just going to remind you of some of the important things about the speaking test, just to refresh your memory about the IELTS and also just to get an idea of what you need to prepare for the test as well, I think some people, they go into the test and if you have some kind of preparation, it does help you a lot when you're looking at the different types of the requirements that you get. What they're looking for in the speaking, first of all, is looking at fluency. And I think this is the one thing that people most obviously think of when you're looking at the IELTS test. That's about speaking at length. No hesitation or little hesitation, and no repetition. So one way to approach that is to always use as much time as you can for preparation in the exam. If you get a minute to think about your answer, use that minute to make notes. And also just little things like saying, okay, so this question is asking me about something that will happen. So I'm going to be using the tenses in the
future tense.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people don't even think about that, and it's very important when you're looking at how you're going to answer the question. If you just make that as a note, it really reminds you when you're speaking about how to answer those questions. Okay. So you can also use words and phrases that give you time to think whilst you're in the speaking response. So the first thing I would suggest that you do for homework, is think about which kind of phrases you feel very comfortable saying, that will give you that little break, because you probably need to think of a few, because you don't want to repeat yourself and you don't want to look like you're hesitating, but also you don't want to sound like it's something that you wouldn't normally say. So something that you would probably say naturally. So the other thing is that when you're in the speaking test, you're being assessed on is coherence. So ability to organize and link your ideas in a logical way. Now, most people don't think of coherence in the answer. And it's important because it's what you're going to be marked on. Coherence means that the examiner understands what you're telling them, and it almost forms like a little story. So you're introducing the idea, you give some more facts and information, and then you come to a natural conclusion at the end of your response. So a lot of the time, that's really looking at the skills of using linking words. So things like, oh, so the first thing that happened was, and then after we got there, secondly, third thing that was the problem, and then finally we were able to reach our destination. So just putting them into a nice little story sequence, is the natural way to approach that speaking part that you're going to be assessed on. Vocabulary. I know vocabulary is important, and showing off your vocabulary is good, but also not getting stuck by vocabulary is important as well, you know, because some people get flustered because they're like, oh, I can't remember the word, I can't remember the word. You know, this is a good idea when you're looking, we'll go through some examples and we'll do some practice, of course, obviously, but, you know, thinking about what are your strong points, what are your weak points. If you think vocabulary is your weak point, you know, in that minute preparation when you're writing your notes, put some keywords down in that time that you want to get into your answer. To read little like articles, a newspaper information about different topics. So say, for example, you're somebody who's really interested in animals and plants and the environment and things like this. You probably already know quite a lot of words yourself because this is your favorite topic, right? You don't normally read things about maybe golf and motor racing and topics like this, you know? So this is when you think, okay, let me look at the newspaper. Let me pick something that I would never read. Yeah, the topic I had no idea about. And because newspaper features everything, they feature fashion, they feature food, you know, politics, everything. You're going to get a good amount of vocabulary if you start reading articles that you would never think of reading at all. Yeah, so get out of your comfort zone and start thinking about other topics. There's a couple of good ones I'll recommend to you. And this also will help you generally with your vocabulary in terms of expanding your lexical resource. So expanding how good you can get. If you have any ability to read things from like these kind of magazines, you know, The Economist, Science, you know, those kind of level of magazines as well, yeah. Anything along those lines is good. Then, in the speaking test, they're also going to assess you on your grammatical range and accuracy, yeah. So we're looking at, you know, the verb tenses, we're looking at different constructions of sentences, we're looking at how many, you know, little mistakes you might make by missing out a preposition or using the wrong one, using the right phrasal verbs, modal verbs, nasty rules and regulations and tricks that English throws at people, yeah? I generally kind of think that IELTS is going to test you on this, but they're also going to look at the fact that how well you can get your information across so that the examiner isn't lost by the grammar, yeah? So we want to make sure that we kind of review all the different grammar rules that are there. As I said before, trying to keep your mind in whether you're speaking in the past, the present, or the future is always a good one. Yeah. And probably the most complicated system for English is the irregular verb. If you can make sure your irregular verbs are pretty nice and tight and good, then that will help you a lot with your grammar. In essence, you know, you can make simple sentences in English, like, you know, John is eating a hamburger. Yeah. You can make it more complex just by adding a few things. Yeah. So John is eating a delicious hamburger in a restaurant. So essentially, okay, yeah, we're looking at complexity of grammar, but we're also saying that generally in English, sentences are fairly straightforward. You can make them more complex, but all it is taking a simple sentence, do things to it. Yeah? So don't worry too much about the grammar. I think most people get hung up on the grammar a little bit as that's the main focus of the exam, but it's only one of 4 things that they're looking for. Yeah. So it just holds as equal weight as much as looking at your vocabulary, out of the 5, it holds as much weight as looking at the vocabulary, looking at the coherence, looking at your fluency, and then the last one that they're going to be looking at is pronunciation. Pronouncing the words correctly. Yeah. Also looking at putting intonation in there about, stressing words about how you feel, and also then looking at stresses in the sentence overall. All right. Most of the people in England have an accent, yeah, and we all speak English. So it's about making sure that your accent doesn't interfere with your pronunciation. So you can still have an accent, that's fine, but as long as you're still clear, the interviewer can still understand what you're saying. They get the emotion from you. They also find out what's important in the sentence from the stresses, and that they're clear on the words that you're saying. Having an accent's fine, just as long as it doesn't, make it difficult for you to be understood.